Hey guys! I thought today, because my brain is apparently very, very terrible at being still, but also needs to film because it's been in my head all week, we would talk about accommodations. Again, as per usual with every video, if you hear noise or you hear the dog, I apologise. Currently, said dog is asleep on the beanbag behind me. So, fingers crossed we don't hear him, but upstairs are doing summer and they've been making a racket all day. So you may hear them. I have no right or no choice over that. They're noisy as frig and I wish they'd turn themselves off. Or at least down until 3 o'clock in the morning, because that's just too loud. No one needs to be making that noise at that early in the morning. But today I thought we'd talk about accommodations. This is more to do with school and college and university type of accommodations because that's a subject I know more about. If you aren't interested in that sort of thing, then please feel free to click off the video. If you are, let's get going. Let's start it. Accommodations, as I've said, in school and college and university are a necessary thing. They are covered in the Equality Act of 2010. They're designed to support people like myself with special educational needs, those with learning disabilities, mental health issues, physical disabilities, and disabilities such as autism and Asperger and dyslexia. Actually, technically I think dyslexia is a learning disability, but very similar to those. In America they have 504 plans and individual education plans. In England we have individual education plans and EHCPs, which are education health care plans. They all function the same realistically. They're all there to tell teachers, TAs, support workers, all the school staff how to support a person with special needs. They all do the exact same thing. Well, not exactly the same, but they are all there for that reason. They're all there to explain to a member of staff, look, this person has this condition, this is how we deal with it, this is how we help them with it, this is what they can do for themselves, this is what they need help with. Now, this might not be necessary for everyone because some people's disabilities aren't declared. Like, you don't have to declare at university or college that you have a disability. Or at least that's in England, you don't. But it does come in handy being able to take that form and say, yes, I have this disability, because you're able to then get the accommodations and support you need to get through whatever you're trying to get through, whether that be, sorry, I'm warm, I'm wearing a dressing gown, whether that be your A-levels, GCSEs or above, or just schoolwork in general. If you don't declare it, that's your choice, but at the same time declaring it gives you the better hand, because you're able to know that you're going to be able to people are going to put support in place to help you through it. Now, I've been through that because I have done school, I've done college, I've done university, and I didn't get my IEP until year 7, so I went through primary without any support at all and without a diagnosis. When I was in year 7 and finally had my diagnosis, I already knew I was different. It used to drive me crazy not being able to do the work, but I was always very passionate about academics, so that kind of hid the fact that I had a learning disability and a communication disability at the same time. But when I got my IEP and realised that I was going to get support in lessons, things were made easier because I wasn't stressed as much. I was getting the support I needed. And legally, they have to be put in place. If someone declares they have a disability, legally a 504 plan, an IEP, an EHCP have to be put in place. They're not something that can be ignored. They're not something that can be chucked away. They're not something that someone can just be like, I don't want to follow this today. It's like a care plan in a hospital. If you don't follow it, a person's not going to get better or receive the help they need. Like, it's not going to get thrown away. It's not going to go away. The disability doesn't vanish just because the person didn't declare it or did declare it but didn't want the help. Like, it doesn't go away. It's just they chose not to make it very, very abundantly clear that they have a disability, and that is their choice. realistically, what a planner and an AEP or an EHCP can do can help a student and staff work together to help the student with the SEN need, special educational need, to engage within activities or class with non-SEN pupils as well as Zen pupils. It gives the teacher specific ways of teaching that student or ways to help that student, but at the same time there's also usually, I'm not sure if it's in every school or in every country, but there is usually like a top guy or a top woman who coordinates everyone's support plans, coordinates the students' care and provisions throughout their time at that school or at that college or at the university. And that's who everyone goes to when something needs updating, when something needs changing, when something needs deleting, when the child needs to speak to someone about their needs. That's who they go to. And this person, well, it's not just this person, but mainly it is this person that would sit the parents down and have the meetings and explain when a change has been made to the provision. Sometimes that's just a little change, like a teacher's changed. Other times it's a big change, like, say, the teacher's left, or they can't provide the support that this child needs anymore, so the child needs to move school. That is a big change. And for that to be successful, both the parents and the student need to know. Like, you can't just cut it off at the parents. Please don't assume that people with disabilities don't understand what you're telling them. We might not be able to express it, but we definitely understand it. And parents, carers, guardians are always involved. I mean, IEP meetings, EHCP, 504 plans, they all have meetings. I'm not sure when they happen, even though I've been through it, because with me it altered depending on the year I was in. But children aren't usually involved in their own IEP meetings until they're ready to communicate effectively, or until they're able to be involved. I mean, I wasn't involved in mine until year 9 or grade 9. That was simply because in year 9 I realised, oh shit, sorry, apologies for the swearing, oh crap, they're talking about me. Hang on, I can say something in this. I know what I'm doing. Why are they talking about me without me being in the room? And it just really upset me. So from year 9, I was actually involved in my IEP meetings. I was able to say, look, this is what's happening, this is what's hard, this is what's easy, this is what I need help in. I didn't get a huge amount of hours from support workers or LSAs or TAs, whatever you want to call them. I got 9 hours a week in secondary school for support. I mean, the support teacher that was organising it all was fine, but because they were short-staffed, the support often went in the wrong places. And that in itself can be a hindrance to someone learning when they've already got a special educational need. The support needs to go in the right places, in the right classes, in the right places, in the right ideas. Like, it can't just be put somewhere because that's where the head of support feels it needs to be. So not just parents need to be involved, but children need to be involved in their support as well, because they need to be able to have a voice, have a way of explaining, look, I'm struggling, or look, this is difficult, or look, this is easy for me. And it's not fair, even if they're non-verbal and you just assume that they're not going to be able to explain themselves. Get them away. If anything, put an accommodation in their IEP meeting or 504 plan meeting or EHCP plan meeting for them to join in, whether that be assistive communication devices like a tablet or a phone or a communication app on either of those things, or a whiteboard so they can write down what they want to say, or they have a conversation with the parents and the parents then bring their views to the meeting for them so that they don't miss out on education. If anything, the children's voice in this whole entire process of accommodations and meetings needs to be top priority. Everyone needs to understand that this person, the person with SEN needs, will know themselves the most. Even if they can't verbalise it, they will know what they need, they will know what they want, they will know how to proceed. You just need to put a place, a thing in a place, an accommodation in place for them to be able to express that, and a time and a place for them to be able to express it. It might take a bit longer. You might have to sit there a bit longer and wait a bit longer for someone to say what they need to say. But in the end, it's worth it to have the person with special educational needs views in the meeting, in the plan itself, where everyone from support workers to LSAs to TAs to actual teachers to gym coaches to parents, everyone is clear on what the person with special needs said or thought or showed during that meeting. Because the IEP meeting is one of the biggest things that will revolve around a person's support, because that basically sets out the accommodations that need to be in place for this person to continue learning and continue to get their best out of education. Now, I didn't actually have a lot of accommodations in school because mainly it was just support and making sure I didn't get distracted. But in college I had quite a few more because I was I had a few more diagnoses by the end of college. But in general, accommodations are things like paper on, you're writing on a different coloured paper, or things are printed out on a different coloured paper. That is mainly for people with Erling syndrome or stopic sensitivity, which is what I actually have. I can't see, it means that someone can't see white paper with black writing. Like, my writing is on white paper, but I have an overlay that's yellow or turquoise, and I put that over things so I can read and draw and see what I'm colouring, see what I'm writing, see what I'm reading. A note taker or extra time in exams. A recorder in lessons. This is more to do with like college though, because you don't really get recorders in school. But in college you can get recorders that you press a button, just record the lecture and only make notes when you can manage it. A calm down area, that is a big one for people, especially people who have a condition where they get overexcited easily, overwhelmed easily, sensory shutdown happens, or sensory overload happens and they need somewhere to go and calm down by themselves, where they don't want to talk to anyone, they just want to sit and read a book or sit and hug a blanket. Calm down language is very important as well. Like, if teachers are calm, kids are more likely to be calm. Fidgets in class. I mean, that's not like, I'm not saying like the person fidgets, although I clearly do. I can't sit still for very long. I'm talking about fidget spinners, I'm talking about tangle teasers, I'm talking about elastic bands around the bottom of the chair so they can kick their feet without hurting anyone and they've just got something to move their feet on. I'm talking about wobble cushions, I'm talking about weighted lap pads, those kinds of fidgets that mean that a person is able to compress and decompress and concentrate on what they're doing. Sign language or an interpreter, that's another big one. I mean, obviously, if you go to a school that is designed for people who are deaf, you're going to have interpreters, support workers who can sign, Makaton, all the rest of it. But in a real, not real estate, that's the wrong word, but in a school that is a state school or a public school that isn't private or a special needs school, and someone's in mainstream but they're also deaf, you'd need someone who knew Makaton or knew sign language to be able to communicate with them. Otherwise they wouldn't get the best out of their learning that they're able to get the best out of and should be able to get the best out of. And one of the most important things I have found over the years when it comes to special educational needs is parents or carers or guardians. Obviously some people don't live with their birth family. Like, I don't. I live with adopted family and my brother. Well, I don't anymore. I live on my own now, but I did through school and through college. I live with my adopted family and my brother, and cats and hamsters and guinea pigs and all sorts of other weird animals throughout the years. But my parents, because they had two very high need children, me and my brother both have autism. My brother's got Asperger and anxiety. I've got autism and a few other diagnoses. But they needed the respite. It sounds so stupid. But parents work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to be the best parent they can for their child, to make sure that their child with SEN needs gets the accommodations they need, gets the meetings done, they get the things done, they make sure that children are fed, clothed, clean, looked after, supported emotionally, socially and educationally within those accommodations. For the child, there also needs to be an accommodation of the parent gets respite every so often. I don't know what that looks like to most people, but I do know that for my parents, I went to sleepovers, we stayed with friends while they did work, we went to after school clubs, we went to holiday clubs, I went to dance, I went to gymnastics, we had our own room. My parents, not when we were really young, but when we were old enough to be staying at home on our own for a couple of hours, my parents would go to the pub, they'd go see friends, they'd possibly go get a takeaway. Often they'd come home and eat a takeaway in front of the TV. Me and Bryn were already fed, it was fine. And we were old enough by that point to just be left in our bedrooms and come down for food and be a pain in the arse when we needed to. It wasn't hard. When we were teenagers, it got a bit easier because they were able to leave us for longer periods of time. But then there are also students with high needs, like non-verbal, wheelchair-bound, deaf, or blind children who grow up. Obviously, everyone grows up to be adult with a disability, especially if it's not going to go away. Like, I know they don't go away, but that is also why a parent needs a respite. They will need breaks, they will need time to be able to escape, and they will need time just to be adults without the extra thought process and anxiety that comes with being a parent of someone with special needs. That's where respite centres come in place. That's where carers come. That's where support staff come. That's where siblings are helpful. That's where, I'm trying to think, what else is there? Like, there's places that kids go, which is literally called respite, and adults go where their parents get the weekend to just be adults and not have to be parents, or not have to be special needs parents if they've got other children at home. Like, no matter what goes on during a school day, a parent and a student are always involved. Everyone needs downtime. Special needs parents don't get it very often, and when they do, it is like a blessing from God because they are so grateful. And I know that. I've watched my parents need it. I've watched my parents come home from a holiday and been so chilled because they've had the break from needing to care for me. Because I'm a lot more high need than Bryn. Even though I'm independent, I still need support more than my brother does. And it's so nice to see now that I'm an adult and I'm able to see their perspective of, oh my gosh, that's why they were loud, that's why they freaked me out, that's why they took so long to do stuff. Because they were working, but they weren't also just doing work every day. They were coming to meetings, they were going to sports games, they were going to gymnastic competitions with me, they were putting up with Bryn and me arguing every day. And they often were looking after other children as well, because my mum and dad shared after school care with another family, who I won't mention because obviously that'd make it complicated. So they were often with other children as well. But they still were able to be parents. So when they got the time, the respite to just be on their own, just be chill, and they come home again, this is as an adult now, I can see why they were so tired all the time, why they probably didn't sleep well, why I was probably a really frustrating person to live with. But it's nice to see now that we've gone past the ugly stage of being disabled and having issues and then having to deal with school and having to deal with college and having to deal with staff that don't understand disability. Now as an adult who's capable and an individual who also understands her needs, I see why my parents need respite. I see why staff needs that respite. I see why other parents need the respite if they've got special kids, special needs children or young adults. And that is one of the most important things. Adults must also be thought of during this process of putting accommodations in place for their children. No matter what happens, that child will eventually grow up to be an adult with disability. So a parent is always going to have to think about that stage as well. Like, once you're a parent, your job is never done, but once you're a special needs parent, there's an extra, I feel like there's an extra couple of 100 years added onto your life, because you've also got to think past what happens when they've gone to college, or what happens when they're done with school, or what happens when I'm dead and I can't support them anymore. Is their family going to be there? Is there going to be siblings there? Is there going to be aunts and uncles, if they're younger than me, going to be there? Is there friends? Look, adults have a lot more, parents have a lot more to think about than just schooling and just accommodations at school, which is why their job as a parent, as a special needs parent, gets more complicated. No matter what accommodations you put in at school, you also must remember the parents, thank the parents, put them at a pedestal, put them in a place where they're able to feel supported too, as well as their child getting the accommodations they need. Put the adult, the parent, the guardian, the carer on a pedestal. Put them where they're able to get the accommodations they need and the respite they need as well. I don't think I've got anything else I can say on that subject. So I'm gonna stop talking before I bore you all to death. Quickly show you the Jakey so you know he's still somewhat alive. And then I'm going to say bye-bye. So my happy ball is... Oops, that's my swing. Where are you? There. He's woken up. He's laying on the beanbag. Which is, yes, behind the swing. Bye, guys.